Spent the first 3 holes playing through a group of 12 during a skins game, so we're picking it up on hole number 4, and I crushed this drive down the left side, luckily carrying all the trees, so I still have a pretty open look to the green, and hit a nice wedge in from about 80 yards, landing it 2 or 3 feet away. So it's not quite a gimme, but I do make this putt to bring me back to even after the 4th. Hole 5 is a big dogleg right par 5, and I pull this and hit it off the heel, so it fades, but it doesn't go very far, luckily, or else it would be out of bounds in somebody's yard. But I make a nice recovery with this 5-iron punch down the middle of the fairway, and then I have about 60 yards with a wedge, which I pull the crap out of and land it on the fringe. They're overseeding the fringe, so they haven't cut the grass in a while. So I do end up short on this putt, but I end up with a tap-in par. Hole number 6, I pull my drive again, and unfortunately I don't clear all the trees and get kind of stuck behind the last tree or two. But I pull out my 7-iron and hit a pretty nice punch shot, but are you kidding me? I hit the freaking cart sign. So now that the cart sign is living in my head rent-free, I totally duff this next shot, and it will haunt me for the rest of my life. I hit a pretty good recovery chip shot here, up to just a few feet, and luckily it's close enough that I can sink the putt to save bogey. This next hole is a drivable par 4, and what do you know, I pull the crap out of it again, but I do crush it about 310 carry, so I end up pin high, and have a nice short pitch shot over this little hump down, and it slopes down to the hole. So I end up just a couple feet from the hole and sink that for a birdie to get back to even again. Hole 8 is playing about 190 yards today, and I hit a 6-iron, ended up fading it off a little bit and a little long, so I had about 30 feet for a birdie from long right of the hole. I gave it a good run, but it was on the low side the whole time and just barely missed the hole, but again, I tap it in for a par. Hole 9 is another big dogleg right, and I hit a fat 3-wood, but got just enough of it to get it out in the middle of the fairway, just to give me a long approach to the green. And you have to hit this about 230 to carry the water on the right, so I hit a 3 hybrid about 245, and luckily, even though I faded it, it went over the water. But then I followed it up with an absolute garbage chip shot, and ended up way high on the hole and had to putt downhill. So I crushed this downhill putt way too hard and had about 3 to 4 feet back up the hill for my par. And what do you know, I lipped this one out and it made me really angry. Hole 10, you got to hit a big banana slice here, and I absolutely crushed this ball, but it didn't slice quite enough, so I went through the fairway. Fortunately, I hit this nice pitching wedge straight over the trees, and it was just about 10 feet left of the flag and a little long, so I had 15 or 20 feet for my birdie putt. Gave it a nice roll, but didn't quite read it perfectly and ended up missing, but again, a tap-in par to keep me at +1. Hole 11 is another par 3, and I switched balls for this round, and all my irons seemed to be going about 5 yards too long, so this ended up right and over the green. So I had this 40-foot putt or so for birdie, and again, gave it a really nice roll. It was tracking the whole way and kind of jumped off to the left right at the end and lipped out. But another tap-in par to get to hole 12. This is where things started to not go so well. I absolutely sliced the crap out of this drive and ended up behind some trees, and there was a window in the middle, but I opted to slice it around the left side just because I know how to bring out my slice when I need it. I had a 5-iron into the green, and I hit it really thin, so it ended up short, but it had the trajectory and the fade that I wanted, so it worked out all right. And I followed that up with a pretty decent pitch shot, which had some right spin, so it ended up 5 feet or so to the right of the hole. This was a pretty straightforward putt, but I hit it about 3 times too hard, so I power lipped it and made my bogey. Here's another par 3, and again I hit my iron straight over the flag, but about 5 yards too long. So I had a little chip shot coming down the hill, and of course I gave it the absolute worst effort you could imagine. I followed that up with an angry putt without even reading the green, so of course I missed by about 5 feet. I did recompose myself to save bogey on this putt, going into hole 14 at +3. Hole 14, I hit a 3 hybrid off the tee and striped this one straight down the middle, leaving me in a perfect spot for my approach. But like any other good drive, I ended up screwing it up big time, hitting it thin way over the green, leaving me with an impossible pitch shot. I hit a pretty decent pitch, but there's just no way to get it close to the flag, but I ended up rolling all the way to the front of the green and had about 40 feet to save par. I hit a great putt here, and it was tracking the whole time, just ended up about a foot short, so I had a gimme for another bogey. We joined up with an old guy, and of course he decided to ruin my video, and it was the best drive of the day, straight down the middle. Then I hit a mediocre lob wedge about 10 yards too long and had a pretty long putt down the hill for birdie. I hit a decent putt here, but it never really had a chance, but at least I got off the bogey train and had a tap-in par. Hole 16, I hit another really good 3 hybrid straight down the middle right side of the fairway and had a perfect approach to the green. I pured a pitching wedge here, but like the rest of my shots, it went about 5 yards too long, and for some reason I didn't get the putts here, but I did 2 putt for a par. Hole 17, I almost shanked this drive straight to the right and left myself with an impossible shot and tried to slice it around this tree, but caught it a little fat, so it was basically just a layup. And then I followed that bad shot with another bad shot into the bunker by the green. And luckily made a good save from here, almost holed it out, and left myself about 5 feet to save bogey. My putting's been pretty decent lately, so I did end up making this putt to keep myself at +5 going into 18. And this is a huge dogleg left, so I tried to hit a big old hook, and I kind of hit a pull draw instead, but barely snuck around the tree. Then I hit the worst top shot of all time because gnats were trying to crawl into my ears, and had about 110 yards and hit a gap wedge, barely on the face of the club, almost off the hosel, so it did shoot off to the right, but it had enough spin to hold the green and give me a look at birdie. I really wanted the birdie and hit a great putt, but it just didn't quite turn down and lipped out again, and it was close enough to tap in for a par for a +5 77. Overall, +5 is pretty good considering how bad I drove and chipped the ball, so I'll see you guys in the next round.